All right. So, first question: Star Wars or Star Trek or something else?
Yeah, so neither at this point. Star Wars lost its charm for me. I used to be quite into it, but not anymore.
Hmm.
And I've never watched Star Trek.
All right. So, what are you into now then?
Uh, Primarily anime. Partly for studying and partly because I just enjoy it. It's actually tends to have better stories than most of the stuff that you can get over here now in the US. Um, However, I tend to watch slightly more obscure anime rather than stuff like Naruto. I've never watched that.
So, for the people who are going to watch this video and invariably ask you, what kind of anime then? Like, what's the obscure titles?
Pretty much anything that is either like more rom com or adventure style.
Okay.
Um, so the slightly more popular ones right now are Spy X Family, Kobe Can't Communicate, um, and Love Is War. But I've got like six that I'm currently watching.
Got
So.
it. Next question: what kind of legacy do you want to leave? What do you want to be known for?
Uh, My answer to that's pretty much always just that I follow what God called me to do.
Hmm.
I don't really have a specific thing that I want to do other than just whatever it is that God has for me. I've already learned that like what that is will be very difficult to predict. Like I do Minecraft servers and have done for the last 7 years, and that's like you don't expect that until it gets dropped in your lap. I didn't try to do this. It's just what was dropped in my lap as well as Christian lab here. I didn't want to be staff.
I
You
think
kept asking.
I asked once, and I think people
Yeah,
asked like numerous times. But yeah,
yeah. I seem to have a tendency whenever I get something that I get involved with, I end up very quickly being on the admin team for it. I guess because I tend to. I don't
well,
want to
I
say
mean,
OCD, but like
I think
when
what
I
it
get
is,
into it, I put a bunch of time into it.
I think what happens is people talk to you and they realize that you don't have a lot of thoughts in your head and you're easy to control, so they want to put you on staff as a puppet.
Yeah, that's exactly the opposite of probably what happens.
That's my stab at British sarcasm.
Yeah, I know.
Um, but if you were to imagine yourself in 3 years, what do you hope would be different about you compared to now?
I think I'm in a bit of a transition right now, so I'd like to be out of that.
Mm,
Since I graduated university last year,
mm,
and I'm in this middling bit where it's like, all right, what I'm actually going to do for a career, for like just future in general. I'm still at home.
mm.
I would like to get married. So get married, get going with whatever it is my career is going to be, but both parents and also general flows. It's like I don't necessarily intend on joining the general career track. It's going to be like we start businesses, and things like that. Things like that. We just kind of see where it goes from there.
Okay. Kind of like legacy, just kind of leave it up to wherever it goes until it gets dropped in your lap.
hmm
Uh,
Yeah, I mean, here we talk about like I've got lots of experience doing DIY around the house, so Dad's really pushing for us to start like doing rental properties and things like that since we have all the skills to do that. It's just about getting started on that and seeing if that becomes my full time job or if I'm doing tech or literally like I've got such a weird smorgasbord of skills.
mhm.
It's like, alright, none of these are by themselves a career, but at the same time, knowing God, they probably all fit into some cohesive weird hole.
He is a fan of doing that. Who
Yeah.
would you say your role models are or mentors?
I've never known how to answer that question, other than it changes. um, I've never had one person that I can say that's my role model, and I don't really want to give the canned answer of Jesus because that's the typical answer that you'll get from a Christian that doesn't necessarily have anything else to say.
Although it is a great
Um,
answer all by itself.
yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It is. But I'm saying it's like you got to explain it some more. It's like yeah, Jesus, but then how do you actually see that in people? For me, it's always been I've gone through phases of really liking Andrew Womack, Jesse Duplantis, Ravi Zacharias, Chuck Missler.
Hmm.
There's a whole bunch of various people that have basically been like what I needed at the time. Nowadays, I don't like Andrew Womack as much anymore. Not that I don't like what he has to say. It just doesn't speak to me the way it used to. It's more stuff that's like, okay, I know that now. Who else has something that speaks directly to what I'm dealing with right now?
Sure.
And so I've watched stuff with Answers in Genesis. It's like just a whole bunch of different people, including favorite teachers from when I did my 2 years of Bible college and stuff like that. So
Okay. Well, I'm almost a little bit afraid to ask this question. What are your views on eschatology and the end times?
yeah, you prepped me with that, and I'm just gonna say now is not the time. That would take hours.
Yeah.
I've got. So as I said, Chuck Missler's one of the ones that I quite like, and he has a 24-hour through the book of Revelation and a whole bunch of details. So I'm fairly confident in the order of events that things go. You would say along the lines of there will be a pre-tribulation rapture, and you got an unknown amount of time. 3.5 years of the first half, which I'm not entirely sure where things fit. The first 3.5 years, I think, might just be the establishment of the beast as a political leader, and that's when he takes over. And then the second 3.5 years is the actual tribulation period of the wrath being poured out, and all the things people typically associate with end times and all of the destruction. But I would also say that I'm on a literal millennial reign that happens after that. Jesus is ruling this earth for 1,000 years. Then you've got the. Technically, it's not the Battle of Armageddon. The Bible only talks about a gathering, but then the battle might not actually happen. And then new heaven, new earth. And the open question that I have is, all of eternity we don't spend in heaven, as I understand it. New earth, what would that be like? Probably like what we have now, but the way it was originally intended. But exactly how that manifests, I don't know. We'll see.
Okay. Segue. You can obviously see where I'm making this connection, but what kind of music are you into?
I don't know how that segues. I just know that you're following your questions list that you had me pre-answer, so we knew what we were doing.
Yeah, so it would look like
Yeah.
or sound like we knew what we were doing.
Yeah. No, so again, I tend to be pretty obsessive when I get into something. So
Yeah.
I've been studying Japanese since July of last year, and so Japanese music, just anime and Japanese worship. Anything that I'm starting to understand the words, and it helps get better at listening and hearing and getting things going. So pretty much just Japanese music right now.
Okay. I've heard that watching kids' cartoons in the language is also helpful. Just tip.
Yes.
Yeah.
Though I've got one kids cartoon that I used. Otherwise, I just turn off the subs and rewatch my favorite anime like 3-4 times.
There you go. That works. So what are your hobbies and how did you get into them?
So Japanese is one that's very essential, though I've gotten a bit lax about actually doing proper study recently. That was a complete random whim at the end of my time at university. I think partly as a way to still maintain this level of order that I had of like studying something, so that like life didn't change too much. But I'd always wanted to be bilingual. I didn't like the idea of being your typical American who only speaks English, expects everybody else to speak English for them. Like, no, I'd rather actually know the other language.
Yeah.
I did a little bit of Spanish in college because I had a mission trip for the Bible college. So basically I did 2 years of Charis Bible College and a 4-year degree at Regent University, but that took 5 years to do. But they overlapped for about a year. So I was at Regent while finishing Charis Bible College, and part of the graduation requirement for that was a mission trip, which we did in Panama. And so I did a year of Spanish in prep for that. And while it was extremely interesting and I actually really, really enjoyed Spanish, I learned that learning languages is fun. Um, it didn't help that much. I was terrible at Spanish. I just thought I was good at it, and so that was where. And I mentioned this in staff chat at one point. The thing that still makes me cringe when I try to correct a Spanish speaker on their Spanish, like, oh, I was in a Spanish speaking country even. Like, why?
We all have those moments,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah, when you know just enough to be dangerous, and yet and have no idea how little you actually know.
Right. Any other hobbies?
Yeah, mostly it's I'm just into various online gaming. I have been a victim of League of Legends for 10 years, but before that, I played StarCraft 2, Supreme Commander, and various other games of that type. But I usually grab one or two main games and play just those. I also do a little bit of speedrunning with Zelda and Ori and the Blind Forest, but I still need to actually beat my time on that because I got bumped off the top 100 slots.
Yeah.
I think I was like 97th, and now I'm like 106th or something. So I've got to like do that again.
And would you say you're more of an extrovert or an introvert then?
Uh, so I think of myself as an introvert. However, I am such a blabbermouth that might not necessarily be true. Generally, my understanding of introversion versus extroversion from a psychological standpoint is it's where do you go to recharge?
Mm-hmm.
And from that definition, I would consider myself introverted. In that, when I'm emotionally drained, I tend to seek out some me time rather than wanting to hang out with people. It might just be that I've not historically had people that I can hang out with. It doesn't feel like I've got to put in effort to put on a face and like be careful what I talk about sometimes.
Sure.
But it also might just be the fact that I generally like to go up by myself, read a book, or have some Japanese or something like that going on.
Got it.
But I do tend to be a bit of a blabbermouth when it actually gets going. So maybe extrovertedly introverted.
As far as that goes, like, what's one thing that, when recharging, what's one thing that can instantly make your day better?
I don't have a good answer for that. Generally, it's just like, again, I've been a victim of League of Legends for 10 years, and I'll do that to recharge, and I've often come away less motivated than I was before. That's where I've started thinking maybe I should quit because the general community is so toxic sometimes. But yeah, I mean, I'll go off and I'll watch some anime or watch some various science videos on YouTube, and that'll help. But as far as like brighten your day, yeah, I mean, it's like when I've got full control of my emotions, or when you notice that God's been saying something and you actually been paying attention and actually listening, which I've got to work on.
I think we all do.
Yeah.
Last question. What's the funniest joke you've ever heard?
There's been. I tend to be a bit of a jokester. My family's like that. I'm almost embarrassed to try and retell it though. The one which comes to mind. We were at church like 10 years ago, and there was someone asking about or talking about how he doesn't understand what the suicide bombers think they're gonna get. Like, because apparently the Muslim idea is that if you give your life for that, you will go to heaven and will have all these women to sleep with and do whatever. And so he was talking about the underwear bomber, and I wasn't ready for this when he goes, "What are you gonna do? You've blown them off!" Like, like that was told in church, and then we all stopped to pray, and I couldn't stop laughing for like 10 minutes.
That transition.
Yeah, like I just. Especially the way he told it, I wasn't ready for a joke
Dude,
at the time.
That is a level of awkward that I aspire to.
Yeah.
Just make everybody nervous, then go to prayer.
Yeah, like I couldn't stop laughing, and like listen to me play right now. No, I couldn't stop laughing.
Dude, that reminds
So,
me. A quick segue. Well, quick tangent. I was at my grandfather's funeral, and my brother hands me a piece of paper that just says, "Yeah, he went to heaven. He just forgot to take his body with him." And it was like, for some reason, the dumbest joke in
yeah.
the most serious occasion, because we were having more of a serious funeral.
Hmm.
It's like I was trying not to laugh, and my uncle was sitting in the pew right in front of me, and I swear he knew I was laughing, and I never told him why. And to this
Yeah.
day, now that I think about it, he probably thinks I'm not a good person.
Yeah, I can see it.
Yeah,
It's just
but hey.
oftentimes jokes aren't funny except in the context of when it happens.
Oh yeah,
It's just weird, yeah.
exactly. All right. Well, thanks for the interview, man. You have a good one.
Alrighty,
All right. Bye.
Janet.